Sold at 560.
785 the first, 785 the second, be sure, 785 third, final time, sold. The third and final time at £910,000, sold. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this current version of the Allsop Prop Chat. This is designed to cover the 23rd of September commercial auction. My name is George Walker. I'm sitting on the Caledonian Canal in Scotland. My colleagues today are Will Clough. I think you're in a pod in the office, Will.
At HQ, sitting in a glass box.
I'm Ben, who's just moved to Brighton.
Yeah, I'm joining you from the south coast. Moved to Brighton.
And how was the move?
Surprisingly smooth.
Brilliant. And we got Sabine joining us as well. Good talk, Sabine.
Guten Tag. Hello. How is everyone today?
Very good, thank you. Now, where are you? You're having a work from home day?
Work from home day, the classic sort of London lifestyle, having a boiler in this morning and not being fitted till this afternoon, so had to be in all day.
The old boiler excuse. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So Sabine's part of the support team at Allsop, and we'll give her a chance later to say how she helps everybody go through the process closer to auction day. Just to go through what we're going to cover today, we've had a fantastic auction, £98.5 million, 117 lots sold. We're all clamouring to get the 100 million total, but look, we can't complain. It was a very, very good day, very, very busy. So that's the biggest auction since 2018. We're going to cover it in a number of sections today. Will is going to discuss why the auction was so big, who's selling, basically. We didn't cover that in our summer review. Good time to do that now. I'm going to go on a little bit about retail. And then Ben's going to join us with some interesting action on the C-store market. One from Hove, one from Hull, and other ones from Bonus and Windermere, etc. I'm going to cover the trade counter section. We always enjoy having trade counters. Chichester this time, Watford, industrial sectors were very busy. And lastly, we're going to touch on the small lots. We always touch on them massively on the bigger lots. So Will is going to cover the small lots. So that's what we're taking to. So first subject of the day then, Will, why was it such a big auction? Who was selling? Was there a big theme or was it just a good spread?
Well, I think that the first auction of the autumn or late summer is always the biggest one, or traditionally the biggest one, in terms of the number of lots and subsequently the value that goes with that. It wasn't that long ago in October 2018, George, I remember us selling 247 lots from the rostrum.
That was with a hammer and 3 auctioneers. Yeah.
So we're not quite at those numbers, but in terms of any theme of sellers, as ever, it's a huge variety of sellers that come to us and we offer on behalf of. Just picking out one or two from this auction, there were 14 out of the portfolio of boots that we've been trading throughout this year, which, George, you've been running. How many is that in total for the year?
It's about 75, I think we've done so far. Yeah.
Yeah, and more to come, we hope. There's 24 or so from an ongoing portfolio sale. You'd have noticed the 6 M&Cos we had that were right across the country, from Spalding down to Newquay.
Yeah, that was actually for the tenants. So I'll cover those later in the retail section, but they all went quite well, didn't
they? They all went very well, and better than we'd expected, better than we'd priced originally. So it's always really encouraging to see that enthusiasm from bidders. We had 3 or 4 fund managers selling for a variety of different reasons and with a variety of different strategies.
Now, some of those, I think, were kind of first-timers, weren't they?
So Threadneedle, for example, we've been selling for a long time. They've been sort of rebalancing what they hold. There are 1 or 2 others that we won't name per se, but one was a backstop approach where it was put out privately with our national investment team. And then
just slow down a second before we gloss over that. So backstop is kind of recognised now, isn't it? You put it out there, private treaty, and then give it the deadline treatment in the auction.
Exactly, and some refer to it as the hybrid approach. It's something unique that I think Allsop can offer, is you give it a bit more airing through the private treaty market, and in this instance, the auction deadline encouraged that buyer to perform, and they exchanged just the evening before the auction.
So, I mean, interestingly, the next auction, you'll see an example of King Street South Shields, which is already out in the market, which is coming to us, and there'll be others too, spinning their way around the market. Good. Other big names, what? A private vendor for the North East. I think that was the first time for them, wasn't it?
So Dougie, newly promoted Dougie, was acting...
Dougie Guild, who's now an associate.
for a propco from the North East. And as you say, it was the first time I think that they put their toe in the auction world as sellers. We sold 4 lots for them. They were just looking to realise some cash and deploy it elsewhere. but a successful auction stint for them, and hopefully there'll be
Some
an
quite
ongoing
big lots.
relationship there.
Nearly £3 million of retail park in Blythe, wasn't it? So that's one of those.
It certainly was. And then finally, the funeral partners of sale and leasebacks, which Gregor was dealing with. So real variety of sellers. Mixed in that are standard privates and private propcos as well.
Okay, so Sabine, all these sellers require a lot of handling. What's the bulk of the thing that you deal with? How just let us know, how many in your team, and what's the bulk of the calls you take?
So we've got the 3 team assistants in our auctions team at the moment. So we pick up the phones and help struggling potential buyers.
That was Charlotte, who we met last time.
Yep. So Charlotte, very good friend of mine and great colleague who was on the chat last week. So we all help potential buyers on the phones, just give them a little helping hand if they can't understand the website a little bit. But what I'm really finding at the moment is that while I'm on the phone talking to these people, I end up chatting a lot more than usual. And then in that respect, you build a rapport with somebody and then they know your name. So every time they register, they go, "Oh, can I talk to Sabine? She really helped me out the last time. So can you do it again with me?"
Sabine, the idea is to help people get it. They don't need to talk to you, but I bet they just keep chatting.
Oh, they just love a good conversation, don't they?
And come on, give us a highlight from this auction. I think everybody in the team has one favourite sort of moment. What was yours this time?
So I had a lovely gentleman who was a friend of Mark Gower, one of the executive partners in our team. He called up and said, "Oh, I need some help registering. Please, can you help me?" This gentleman, bless him, was very challenged in the technical area. So I thought I'd just help him along over the phone. And after that, he then proceeded to email my boss saying that I should get a hefty pay rise because I helped him out.
Hey, that wasn't part of the script, all right? It's not fair. I didn't know that. Did you really? That's fantastic.
Have you received the pay rise?
I'm afraid Mark is sitting on a beach in Spain at the moment, so I can't get authorization for that. So between the 3 of us, we can't. That wasn't fair anyway. Did he really do that? That's amazing. Well done.
Yeah, no, he did. And then actually he ended up buying a lot in the auction, I think one of the lots in Leeds. So all that hard work paid off.
Brilliant.
All positive stuff.
So as always, the auction was dominated by retailers, over 80% retail. 2 or 3 years ago, we thought, oh my goodness, that's all we do. The market's, on its knees. What are we going to do? Actually, it's been very effective. And with this extraordinary range of retail we've offered, buyers, we keep mentioning buyers are looking for value or security. If you look at the M&Cos, there was an interesting portfolio. There was half a dozen of them. None of these were towns to write home about. I mean, you're talking Newquay to Spalding. So nothing great. But what they did, they've just given 1 year security on the leases. So that means they've also got brand new rents. So the rents have been rebased. And I think that comes through in some of the demands. So if you looked at the one in Spalding, for example, the rent was really brought back, £45,000 a year, just a year's security. And that went for double the guide price. Now, yes, in this case, we probably got it wrong. But you don't think Spalding is on many investors' lists. A year's security is just not enough in most people's eyes. But 10,500 feet put in the book at £25 a foot actually made £48 a foot, so just 520,000. So of the totals we were anticipating on guides of a couple of £1 million, the market was at 2.6 overall for those 6, which is quite interesting. The other end of the spectrum, the boots do give people security. It's a very familiar brand name, like Woolworths used to be. People love the boots. Special reasons for buying boots, a pharmacy approach, the building is licensed. It's not just planning consent. There's lots of reasons for buying them, and we talked about that in other auctions. This time we had 14 lots. The mix was tremendous. We had some 3-year leases or 3-year breaks, and then some longer leases. The probably star of the show was the Saffron Walden building, lot 43. It wasn't mixed use. It was all single let to boots. Nice long letting, 2029. Interestingly, we sold the shops next door in the parade behind it in the last auction, which is quite a big lot. That was 6.5%. So we were thinking that, we'll get 6.5 for this. Actually, the market was really strong. 4 bidders there, 5.6% overall. That's a big price for a market town. But it reflects the scarcity of these long leases, 2029, and people just trust the brand. And the average on that portfolio of the ones sold was just above 6%, and this one came out at 5.6. So that's a couple of the retails. Clearly, there's a lot of retail there, and that's 2 extremes. There's a lot more to go on about, but let's not dwell too much. But staying really within the retail sector, Ben, you're going to cover the C stores for us.
Yeah, convenience stores. We had a few convenience stores in the auction in September. We all know and love convenience stores, and our market seems to adore them as well. Just going straight into it, you mentioned in your examples there, George, you had some short income and buyers were still buying it. In fact, it went double the guide. Well, we saw a similar theme with some convenience stores. In Hull, we had a Sainsbury's. It was lot 18. This was also very short income. It wasn't a pretty building. It was 2025 expiry. So you had just over 3 years to go. And
the guide price there was pretty modest, wasn't it? I mean, people don't... It was a whole...
We were guiding 750 to 800,000, and it sold for just over $1 million. It sold for 1,034,000. There were RPI linked reviews within there, but buyers didn't seem to be put off at all by the 2025 expiry, which, if you look at it, it's actually quite short. So that's a good news story.
It doesn't give the security, does it, that buyers want for this. So 5.4% is quite a southeasty type of yield.
But if you step back from that also, I think it was part of a sort of neighbourhood shopping precinct or parade. It had 28 car parking spaces. So it was suburban. It was more of a destination location.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And interestingly, as a listener, we'd really love your view here. These short leases and particularly break clauses, and how are you factoring those in? Because we're seeing, we call it bidding through the break, which is a bit of an Allsopism, but in some cases, and there's others that Ben will cover, bidding through the break. How are you pricing those early breaks? And does it vary per sector? We think it does, but we'd like your views. So podcasts@allsop.co.uk for those. Ben, what other C-stores were there?
Well, if we just stick to the short income theme for a moment, lot 58 in Leeds, that was a Tesco's. It was actually a one-stop on the lease. It was trading as the Tesco's. We saw some huge demand for this. You only had 1.5 years to the break. So you talk about bidding through the break. It was actually bought by the tenant. So 1.5 years to the break. It was bought by the tenant. It sold for £876,000.
But a dozen bidders or something? I mean, it's nuts, wasn't it?
So that's 5.4%. We had over a dozen bidders. We actually had over 20 bidders.
Did you?
Okay. But what you've got to remember is, yes, the tenant bought it, but to get to that price, an underbidder had to be present. So we are seeing a lot of buyers look beyond that break, because that was 1.5 years income, as I say.
And I think actually 3 other tenants, there's 3 bidders from three tenants bidding under, which is nice to see. It's showing faith in the bricks and mortar, which is good.
And Ben, what about your local cooperative?
You've got
my
to
local co-op. Yeah, lot 87 in Hove. Right, so this is a bit of a different beast, because it was a ground floor. It was virtual freehold. It was ground floor, but actually it was city centre Hove, just next to the sea. Hove is a town, part of the city of Brighton and Hove. It's very much a growth area. There are loads of building sites, loads of flats going up, and loads
of other people moving there, Ben, judging by the lack of availability of removals wagons.
Well, funnily enough, since I've moved here, it's actually turned out to become the most popular place in Britain to live. Who knew? But when I spoke to my removal men last Friday, they said they'd done 5 jobs that week, and all of them were coming from London to Brighton and Hove. Sure. But this convenience store, it's interlinked really, because it's a co-op. Co-op are on Deliveroo, they're on Get Here. You see these guys on scooters running all around sort of Brighton and Hove, just like in London. So it's
a new build, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a new build, but it's not just going to benefit from the passing trade or the local chimney pots. It's also going to benefit from this immediate delivery services, which is taking the world by storm. So it's well placed. Anyway, what did that achieve? It was virtual freehold. It got 4.75%, and you had 9 years to a break. It was a 2030 tenant break.
And to be fair, we didn't, that's a big price, but it's southeasty, and as you say, Hove is growing, and all those new flats and people like you turning up, it's just going to bring more business and allow the tenants to pay more rent, and that's what the buyer bought it.
Absolutely.
And so, George, if we move from convenience stores perhaps more to the industrial and trade countery world.
Yeah, I mean, the market loves a trade counter. We were lucky enough to have an instruction of a juicing actually in Chichester in the auction, and it's sort of 2 lots actually. and raised quite a spectre of how the private investor would cope with leaseholds. They don't really like taking on a leasehold asset, and these two lots were held by different parties. They were connected, but both were leasehold, subservient ultimately to a freehold, which is owned by the council. So these two assets on their own, nice little juicens, decent letting, and really quite appealing. But Demon Doug Gill was on these, and he's a great chatter, a bit like Sabine. And there was one particular buyer who felt if they bought both, they could lose one of those leasehold interests and make the asset a great deal more palatable for them. Ultimately, that's what happened. It sold at £5 million as one lot. That's 6% dead for nice juicens. It becomes a much more simple leasehold result, but is it leasehold interest? That was where Doug, again, it's not all about always just going under the hammer. Do talk to us, because sometimes there's deals to be done where you've got a special interest or you think you can pull these together. And it took a lot of effort to get it done beforehand, but good old auction contract came into play, £5 million the day before the auction. The other example, Will, I think was interesting was, Watford, good old M25 location for an industrial. On the face of it, not that sparkling at £97 a foot, but actually it was lot 29, it's 12,000 feet. Only half of that was ground floor space. And my previous life as a shed shifter, what you really do value is the ground floor. You don't value the mezzanine. So it's £174 a foot overall, 4.7% for a warehouse. Now, that's something we haven't seen for some time. The market is very key in the sector. And as we already know, we're not often lucky enough to have these sales, but tremendous price. And I think there's a tremendous depth in the market. That's sort of 300 grand above the initial guide price. So nice example, better than 5% for a shed. And that's always good to see. So, Will, there's some of the bigger lots. I think you were going to cover some of the smaller lots. How many were there up to sort of £500,000?
I think before I do so, I need to put another 50p in the meter for the air conditioning in this booth. It's turning rapidly into a sauna. But in terms of the smaller lots, as George said at the start, we often talk about the bigger ones, but the smaller ones are as important to us, and they make up a huge part of the catalogue. We had 61 lots that sold for £500,000 or less, the lowest of those being 75,000. And again, a full spectrum of lots on offer. I'll just pick out two of them. One was lot 139 in Aylesbury. It was a shop on the high street.
That's a cracking town. Can I just say, I'm on form today. That's where I learned. Every Friday, I used to go from grammar school to the auction market to see the cars being sold. Every Friday lunchtime, religiously. My mates thought I was mad. Perhaps I am. Anyway, sorry, Will.
That's why you speak so quickly. So that was 10 years with a 5-year break, RPI review in the 5th year if they don't break. It was a very affordable rent. It was about 4,000 feet over ground and first. So again, as we talked about in the summer review, potentially there's that element of underutilised uppers, maybe some alternative use value in the future. 15
because it was just a little shop, really, wasn't it, when they didn't use upstairs? Yeah.
Exactly. 15 registered bidders for that one. And the market probably saw this as well, 5.7% for 5-year income in Aylesbury. £115 a foot, though, so not expensive on a capital rate. At the other end
if you can get release the value in the upstairs.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the other end of the country, Bowness on Windermere. So we're just south
I've just
of
gone
Windermere.
Past that.
Very slowly conserving your fuel.
Yes, indeed.
This was 3 ground floor shops, 2 of which were vacant. It was a long leasehold interest, ground floor only. Planning had been submitted for the conversion to 3 flats, but the response hadn't been received yet. So this is all still speculative.
So this is one where you were offering effectively 3 vacant shops, but they were commercial. They weren't residential, were they?
They were commercial in use.
Yeah.
They were priced as commercial because planning had not been granted.
Yeah.
That explains why it went for 3 times what its commercial vacant possession value is, because people, I think, see the future values there in residential, be they use it for Airbnbs or AST.
It's a staycation. It's also, but I think
the interesting one about that particular unit as well, though, it was leasehold, so you needed to have freeholder consent to actually convert it. To change its use, you don't only need planning; you need freeholder consent.
So it's just adding to a little bit of planning risk there, isn't it?
Yeah,
but interesting. Well, it's a smaller lot. 300,000 is quite very affordable. A lot of people would have made a lot of money out of the staycations. Really believe in that market. and the Airbnb concept. It's just a different way of investing, sort of alternative investments, isn't it?
And there were 23 people lined up to bid for that one on the day.
Well, they're really, gosh.
So the small lots, as we said, the small lots often generate the most competition.
Yep, we still sold 34 lots above $1 million, and that's either end of the spectrum. There was an average lot size 1.6 on the bigger lots, but 61 lots up to $500,000. It was a tremendous spread, wasn't it, auction? And I think we've all a lot of us are going away as a result before we build the next one, which comes up in early November. The next podcast we will be doing, hopefully, a joint venture with the Leeds office, who are in the residential sector, describing how they work so well with the London office, or it might be a valuation special from Andrew Hoban. Wait and see. Please do get back to us with your comments on the break clauses. If you do treat break clauses differently according to different sectors or early or short leases, because the market is bidding beyond the break in. Quite a lot of examples we've covered today. So that's podcasts@allsop.co.uk. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon or this morning, whenever you're listening. My name is George Walker, Allsops. And Ben, thank you very much for coming in from Brighton and getting rid of those boxes. How many pictures have you hung today?
50 to 100. I mean, so many pictures. It's a 2-day job.
That's a lot of pictures. And Clough, you're still surviving the booze.
I'm still here, as ever. Good to speak to you both.
And meanwhile, Sabine, great having you, because it just, with the registration process, it can look daunting, but actually it's not. I think the answer that I keep hearing everyone give is that if you look back at this email, look at the website, it's there, isn't it?
Yeah,
but it's nice to have a friendly voice.
Guide on the website, which people should read, but obviously we're always here to lend a helping hand over the phone as well.
Brilliant. Sabine, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you get your boiler fixed.
Thanks for having me, guys.